Hi.
Uh, my name's Waldo,
You know who I am.
but who are you?
You
It's
know who I am.
This is Thomas. It's somebody's first show, Thomas. You have to introduce yourself.
I refuse.
Oh, well, that's fine. I'll do it. That's Thomas. He is not just me arguing with myself in post processing. That would be crazy.
Or am I?
Or are you? We've got chat up. We've got everything ready to go, and we are gonna talk about a little bit of politics, a little bit of news, and then uh, maybe have a little bit of a discussion. We had a pretty big sprawling one last week, like
Yeah, last week
five
was
hours.
long.
Yeah, I know. I chopped it down to like 2:19 or something like that, and I put that latest video up.
You cut out all my best arguments.
I don't think I
I get
did.
it. I was
I tried, but then it didn't make any sense, so I put them back in.
okay.
But
Oh boy, I have to be honest. I haven't looked at a lot of news this week.
yeah, there's
Um,
not as much going on this week, and if we're gonna skip the drama, um, I'm gonna close my window, but I'm gonna keep talking. If we're skipping the drama of uh, like Tucker Carlson and who's that other guy? Steven Crowder, then there's
Don
not a
Lemon.
who
Don Lemon.
Don who's is there drama with Don Lemon? Don Lemon? I don't know.
Yeah, he got fired too.
Oh,
Same day as Tucker.
oh, well, that's why nobody heard about it. That's why I didn't hear about it. Um, Don Lemon also fired. Was there a reason?
I have no idea.
Okay, because nobody cares because we're all talking about Tucker. So
Yeah, I spent
maybe,
the
yeah.
week reading and watching the NFL draft. So
Oh, very fun.
yeah.
Uh,
Speaking of, should be on right about now.
okay. So if you're unusually quiet, that's why. That's fine. I will. I will understand.
Well, I won't be unusually quiet. I'll just unusually be, or I'll be unusually not angry.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, well, no, I don't know. What if the draft goes wrong and your team
Oh yeah,
loses an important
I
thing
was I
or
was
makes a
quite
bad
furious with
decision?
my team
Well, you were
last night.
furious
So
last night. Okay.
yeah.
So that is good to know. Now we know what you're thinking and looking at and paying attention to.
No, no, no. I'll devote my full attention to the
I
stream.
know.
I'm not watching the draft. I promise.
Okay. How many screens you got? Okay. Right.
I have
Let's.
3.
But yeah, we won't be going as long today because, um, I mean, there's not as much going on. First of all, second, I've got yard work to do out in the sun, and
Yeah, and I gotta pick up a friend from the airport.
yeah, and we
So
may not be on next week at all.
no, we're not gonna be,
Okay.
or
Uh,
I won't be certainly
I
next week.
I have an important thing going on next week as well, but so I might do something silly early in the morning, but then that'll be it.
Alrighty.
And let's talk about some politics. Ted Cruz tapes to be handed over to Jack Smith's DOJ probe. So we've got Mr. Ted Cruz. He is a senator, and
Okay.
we have some audio recordings of him talking to Fox News uh, TV hosts. Which one? Uh, it was Bartiromo. Yeah, Maria Bartiromo. So he's talking to her about the plans for the uh, certification of Joe Biden on Jan 6th.
Okay.
Uh, his quote was, as we were looking at this Jan 6 certification, all of the options that were being discussed were problematic. And so I wanted to find a path that was consistent with the Constitution and the law and that addresses these very real serious claims. That sounds nice, but he, he the claim is that he's trying to bureaucratize a coup.
What?
He's trying to bureaucratize a coup. He knows that there is no voter fraud. He knows that there is nothing wrong with the election, yet he will call it fake, call it a fake election. He will do the thing that Donald Trump did for, and is still fucking doing to this day, of saying that it was rigged, it was broken, it never got investigated, and then he's going to create an investigation and then not certify the votes on January 6th. But he's not stomping through the fields with the protesters. He's inside the halls doing what the protesters wanted
Mm,
based
I'm not
on.
sure if you're representing that right. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Try this fake
This
commission.
fake made up so-called commission that he and Trump buddies were planning to try and create to bureaucratize the coup. And that's why they were trying to do. That was his answer to how they would steal the race.
Oh, that's how Cruz answered.
Melber
Interesting.
said, no. Melber said that Bartom, Melber said that Bartiromo then asked Cruz who would decide who gets to be inaugurated. And Cruz answered, oh, yeah, that
Yeah,
this
this
fake made
is
up so called commission that he and his Trump buddies were planning to try and create to bureaucratize a coup. God, this is so hard to speak today. And that's why what they were trying to do, that was his answer. That was how they would steal this race. I think we
did
can listen to him say it if you want.
did he say it on TV there?
No, he
The
said
next
it.
day?
Well, he explained his plan to bureaucratize the coup on uh, TV the next day. And then again, what? You come on, Twitter. I don't know if we can watch that. We probably can't. Okay, give me a moment.
Hmm. So what's the point? What's the point of the article, or what are you getting
Um,
at here?
that Ted Cruz will lie and create bureaucratic nonsense to subvert the votes.
Isn't this the opposite of that?
How do you figure?
Um, Go back to the article real quick
Give me a moment.
and scroll up. Up.
The,
So he is discussing what legal ways to not certify the election.
right.
And I guess I need some more explanation here of what you're getting at.
Oh, well, I mean, that's it. He's discussing the blocking of the certification of the election with a Fox News pundit.
Okay.
This is the deep state. This is what everybody screams about with the deep state. It's when a person who has power uses bureaucracy and legal little loopholes to subvert the will of the people, and they have the media working with them. This is the deep state. This is what Alex Jones. This is the deep state, folks. What we have here is a elected representative who is doing the opposite of the will of the people, and he has the news media working hand in hand with him. This is the deep state,
But
and it's not leftists doing it. It's not Democrats doing this.
Well, the deep state
It's not Obama.
has
It's
the
not
left
Obama.
and right in it, don't they?
If maybe, but I look for I see the news, and this is if there's a left wing
Maybe,
person,
but I
maybe, but
look
they're not on
for
the news.
the right wingers to do it. So
I mean, if you bring me some left wing deep state, we'll talk about it. I just don't see it. I don't know. I don't know who is left wing deep state at the moment.
excuse me, but they all operate out of Comet Ping Pong, and right wingers not allowed to go there anymore.
Right. Um, so the point of this is, yeah, it's not super obvious and blatant, but this is an elected the senator of Texas, very big state, who is disregarding democracy, disregarding votes, and coming up with legal hurdles, legal loopholes, so that the people who voted don't get what they wanted, what they voted for.
Hmm. Uh, I don't care.
Okay, that's fine. It is a very small issue that is going to go away in a couple of days, but um, I just wanted to say it. I just wanted to
Okay.
say that line.
Okay.
Okay, as a Republican doing a wrong thing and fighting against democracy and the voters of America. Republicans suck.
Wow, that's a short segment
I know.
compared to last week.
That is fine. Well, this one has a lot less wildness
There's less
or
meat on the bone
less
there, I
meat on
think.
the bone here. Yes, I agree. Let's see.
You had two articles open for that.
Well, just in case, one of them had said something slightly different.
All right.
Uh, Good news! All 9 Supreme Court justices agree on a thing that they shouldn't have oversight. We finally got them all to agree on something, and it's
All nine
don't
justices say don't look into our into
don't
us.
don't look into us. Says all 9 of them. They all agree. We finally did it. We finally found a subject that they all can vote for. I mean, it's 9-0, baby. Don't look at us. Um, the reason this one comes up is because of
The
John Roberts'
Thomas thing we
Tom,
talked about.
well, that and now Justice Roberts' wife has made like $10 million. Um,
Hey, can you open this chicken nugget
They're
bag?
all like this. It's all like this. I mean, I brought it up the other week when we were talking about the justices, or when we were talking about Thomas, about how everybody that's in politics or in a position of power, somehow uh, their uh, spouse ends up getting a board of directors position at like Goldman Sachs.
right.
Out of nowhere, no qualifications or anything, but now they're a member of the board of directors, and it's like,
Right.
how'd that
Um,
happen?
and I don't think.
Or Hunter Biden gets a position at Burisma.
Right. Uh, I'm less worried about that one because he's not elected to a position and it's a private company hiring him. Uh,
Yeah, the spouses of Supreme Court justices also are not elected, and
well, they're not
it's a
elected to the
private
thing.
company that hires them.
Is it?
I mean, if Goldman Sachs, yes, if Goldman
Yeah,
Sachs hires the
I
spouse
am
of,
less worried about it if it's Goldman Sachs hiring the judge's wife. I'm less worried about that. I don't like it,
oh, okay.
but it is less worrisome than people who are choosing judges. I want to say Roberts' wife is now like choosing judges, and if you're
What?
okay, hang on, let me find out exactly what she does. Chief Justice John Roberts' wife, made over $10 million as legal consultant. So, God, I hate the internet, dude. Why does the internet suck so much? Anyway, Jane Roberts, the wife of Chief Justice John Roberts, made more than $10 million in commissions over an 8-year stretch where she matched top lawyers with elite law firms. Okay, never mind, including some that had cases before the Supreme Court, including documents obtained by insider. Concerns grow about justices possibly having unreported conflicts of interest. So at worst, this is like a conflict of interest. Okay, I thought she was like helping
Okay, so the issue
to
here
seat
is
judges.
that sometimes she's selecting which lawyers present a case before the Supreme Court, and then
Right.
it's like his wife might be like, "Hey, I selected this lawyer for this case,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be in front of you tomorrow."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, I can see the issue there.
Okay. It's not a huge issue. It's not as big as some of the other ones, and I'm not as much worried. I'm not as worried about this one.
All right, so what's the article you linked up all about? It's
somebody said
they just don't want oversight.
yeah.
If we look into them, they don't like that.
All 9 justices, in a rare step, Tuesday released a joint statement reaffirming their voluntary adherence to a general code of conduct, but rebutting proposals of independent oversight, mandatory compliance with ethics rules, and greater transparency for cases of recusal. So they said, hey, we have a code. We always stick to the code. We do not need independent oversight. We don't need anybody checking up whether or not we are sticking to the code.
Hey, they have investigated themselves and found that they have done nothing wrong. Okay.
Right. That's kind of where we're at. We investigated ourselves and we found nothing wrong. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, incredible.
And they finally, they all agree. It's super great. And now I'm worried that the other ones have it too. Fucking the liberal justices are all doing it too.
Do you think they're not?
I don't know. I haven't seen any evidence that they are.
I
I
told you
hadn't
this
heard.
is how power
Yeah,
works. This
I
is
know,
where everybody
but
is like this.
I know, but I'd like them to be
You just
better.
don't like that.
I just don't like it. We need.
I don't like it either. I just
I
recognize that
know.
this is reality.
We need to restructure it. If you want to be a judge, you have to be a monk. You have to live in a monastery.
You have to be the avatar.
Yeah. Can't we have judge monks? Monk judges. Yeah. It'll be cool. And they already wear robes, you know?
Yep. You don't want monk judges, so they'd all be conservative.
Maybe. At least they wouldn't fucking take money.
True.
They wouldn't be married to QAnon supporters who were just getting paid to subtly influence their husband. Honestly, I might take the conservative monk judges.
Okay. I'll join you in support for conservative monk judges.
Okay. I would slightly prefer that to married to QAnon judges. So yeah, that's it for the judges. Any cool insights there?
I think I already gave them.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Oh man, we're going quick through this stream.
I know.
Goddamn.
Well, we haven't gotten to the complicated parts yet. Montana transgender lawmaker silenced.
How do you pronounce that name?
Zoe Zephyr.
I know the last one is Zephyr, but is it Zoe or
Zoe?
Zooey?
I'm pretty sure it's Zoe, but that's what I've heard anyway.
Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna go with Zephyr because I know how that's pronounced.
ZZ.
Or ZZ.
So she has, for days before voting to discipline her, legislative leaders in the GOP-controlled state house had not allowed Zoe Zephyr to speak during debates because she said colleagues who voted to ban gender-affirming care for youth would have blood on their hands. I think they're taking her off of other committees and stuff like that too. The remark provoked outrage from Republicans who said that the language was belittling and an affront to civil discourse.
Well, she's essentially accusing them of killing people.
Having blood on their hands. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
I
think she's
they're
wrong.
they're overreacting maybe a little bit, but
Yeah.
if they decided that that's not the kind of language they want to have in the House, then that is their choice.
Okay. Well, then I get to say that they're anti-free speech. But they're Republicans, so they're going to shut down someone's free speech and then tell their voters, hey, we're the free speech party. We're the party of free speech. Stop canceling us on Twitter.
That's not really the same thing, though, is it?
No, they're not the same thing.
No, it's not the same thing as what is complained about. Republicans have a certain respect for rules. So you break the rules, you are going to face consequences for it. And they've decided that Zoe broke the rules here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The rules within the House, just like how you're not supposed to, storm the podium and use a megaphone to fucking do protest chants in the middle of a House meeting where you're trying to vote on legislation and get things done. There are rules there. It's not a silencing. It's not anti-free speech to enforce those rules. It is anti-free speech to not allow certain things to be said outside of there. Like if somebody makes a post on Twitter and that gets censored because somebody doesn't like their opinion, that's different from breaking the rules on the House floor.
Okay. I'm going to suggest that Republicans do not respect rules at all in any way, shape, or form. If it were a 51% Democrat legislature that is going to limit gun rights, they would break all the rules with no regard. They would scream, they would cry, they would disrupt, they would bring their supporters in, and they would not follow the rules.
It is all within the rules. In fact, I mean, the last thing that you linked the Ted Cruz on was, hey, how can we actually do this within the rules, right? It's all about staying within the rules.
No, it's about bending the rules. The thing Ted Cruz suggested was not of the rules. The rules are already over. He created horseshit. He created nonsense. He created fake news to challenge the rules. Hey, we heard from a few people that there was something screwy with the votes. We have no evidence of it, but we heard it, so we need to stop the process. We need to stop the rules of verifying and doing these things that are supposed to happen on Jan 6 and investigate it. No, he does not respect the rules. He does not respect the votes. He does not respect democracy. These people in Montana also do not respect democracy. They have an in-group and an out-group. Zoe Zephyr's on the out-group. So you use the rules to harm her.
And I reject your characterization of what Ted Cruz did. But no, they use the rules to harm her.
That's how Republicans use the rules. If you're on the out-group, which Zoe Zephyr is, the rules are used to stop you and to harm you. If you're on the in-group, the rules are used to protect you.
No. In this case, she violated the rules. So, and the rules have consequences. That's it.
The only known attempt to censure lawmakers in the Montana legislature was half a century ago. Democratic lawmakers sought to reprimand 3 Republicans who were accused of placing false and misleading election advertisements, according to news articles. The censure motion failed. There are no further records of Montana legislators being expelled or censured. Let's see. So it's not like they have a really long record to fall back on of what to do when people say things like this. Efforts to punish Zephyr originated in the caucus, whose members said that Zephyr's comments displayed hateful rhetoric and called for a commitment to civil discourse.
So I'd also would be willing to bet that accusing Republicans of having blood on their hands is not the only thing that this person has said on the House floor that would be a violation of civil discourse. I'd be willing to bet that she said a little more than that. And that this article is probably not representing everything entirely fairly.
I haven't seen any evidence of it.
That's fine. I haven't looked for it yet, but if you want to next week, or well, in 2 weeks, then I bet you'll find some.
Well, it might be over by then. Or this would be a new super important star within the Democrat Party who gets what they want. I mean, it worked so well kicking out the Justins a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah, it went great.
In her Monday speech, Zephyr connected the fight over her words to the struggles facing marginalized groups throughout the country, including those who have the audacity to stand up and say, this legislation gets us killed, and have been met with punishment. She's speaking in her position of speaking. She's supposed to speak. She's supposed to talk. She's supposed to try to sway people to vote a certain way. It's what politics is, and she's doing that. But she's doing it from an LGBTQ standpoint, and they don't like it.
Yeah, I don't buy it. I have to see what exactly she has said.
I might be able to play this. I don't know if you will hear it.
Probably not.
I rise in opposition to these amendments and to the governor's letter. In the governor's letter, he said Montanans who struggle with their gender identity deserve love, compassion, and respect. That's not what trans Montanans need from you. We need access to the medical care that saves our lives. And these are hollow words coming from someone whose amendments are going to make it harder to access that care. This bill tries to define male and female as binary. You could not legislate binary sex any more than you could legislate that the earth is flat. Intersex people exist, trans people exist, and this bill doesn't change that. Lastly, I would say that there were conversations at the end of this, at the very end of the bill, the letter that says life-altering medical procedures should wait until they are adults. What I will say is if you are, by this bill and by what these amendments do, if you are forcing a trans child to go through puberty when they are trans, that is tantamount to torture. And this body should be ashamed. And if you vote yes on this amendment and yes on this bill, ooh, I love this. Does everyone want to stand?
Representative Zephyr, would you like to close?
Oh, sorry, I'm yielding to the Majority Leader.
Majority Leader Vinton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I speak on behalf of our caucus. We will not be shamed by anyone in this chamber. We are better than that.
Representative Zephyr.
And the only thing I will say is if you vote yes on this bill and yes on these amendments, I hope the next time there's an invocation, when you bow your heads in prayer, you see the blood on your hands.
Okay, do you have the link? Did you watch the 2-minute video?
Oh, it's. I'm working on it still.
Sorry.
I got another 10 seconds. So, do you see in this video? There's a couple of times it happens. Did you notice the parts where it flashes white?
Sure.
Okay, that is representative of when they make a cut to the video. They actually put that in there
Sure.
on purpose so that you can see where the cuts were. So we didn't get the full speech, and also that is pretty accusatory. Even just the stuff that was shown.
Oh, I think it's
Um,
pretty fucking tame.
It was. I thought it was relatively inflammatory.
Ah, because you disagree with her.
I don't
Because you
think I
disagree
would.
with her.
I don't think I would remove her from committees and shit for it. But yeah, uh, seemed pretty angry there.
Yes, she's very angry. I'm glad she held it together as well as she did. Because the state is taking away rights. The state is taking away human rights. The state is taking away human choice. The state is taking away freedom. That should make you angry. That should make lots of people angry. But because they don't like or appreciate the idea of trans people, they don't mind when the state takes their freedom away.
I don't think that's I don't think that's a fair representation at all. We've had the trans debate before about whether people should be allowed to transition as children.
Mm-hmm.
Which I really don't care to relitigate right now.
It's fine.
But
what is the state of Montana doing right now?
I have no idea.
Okay, they're not taking away freedom. They're not taking away choice.
It sounds like they are making procedures more difficult to get for children.
Yes.
Okay.
By taking away that choice. That is no longer a choice the people of Montana are allowed to make. So they no longer have the freedom to make that choice.
Isn't the government, the state legislature, elected by the people?
Yes.
Okay, and so the people are saying, no, you shouldn't be.
You shouldn't be allowed to have that choice. Yes, it's entirely possible that the people of Montana have said with a loud enough voice that has elected Montana officials who've said we do not want our neighbors and friends to have this choice.
To have surgery performed on their children.
Right. So the people are voting also to take away the choice, to take away the freedom.
You know, I don't think that this is a problem.
I know, because you are on their side, is what I'm saying. I'm walking us towards that. It is Republican conservative people who voted to take that choice away.
Yes. We're voting to take away your choice to have surgeries performed on your child who will eventually become an adult and can make that choice themselves.
If they're lucky, they can make that choice themselves. Because there are some states that are making it fucking hard even for adults. We talked about Missouri 2 weeks ago, who's making it hard for even adults. Right? We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Missouri's making it even more difficult for adults to get that care too.
We did, but you just moved the goalposts.
No, I didn't move the goalposts. I'm telling you that this
you
is
said
the
that
plan.
The choice is being taken away, and I said yes.
Yes.
Choice is being taken away from the parents,
Mm-hmm.
so that when a child who is going to have a life-altering surgery,
mm-hmm. or maybe even just
can
puberty blockers. They're not just blocking the surgery, boss. They're not just blocking the surgery. They're also blocking the puberty blockers and the hormones. They're blocking those too, which are
What's the law
reversible.
say?
I can probably find it, but they're blocking those things.
All right, I'll tell you what.
Uh-huh.
Pull up the law, and we'll talk about the law
Okay. If the law is
next
blocking,
time.
okay. If the law, let's hypothetical then. If the law is blocking hormones and puberty blockers also, as well as the surgery, I mean, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't make any difference. If the law blocks only the surgery, I'd still be against it. If it blocks all three, I'm still against it. Is there a combination of that law that you would be okay with, or that you would not be okay with, or that you would be okay with?
I don't know. I have to see the law.
All right. Hypothetically speaking, it blocks those three things. The people have voted for it. Should the people of Montana be allowed to do that? Should they be allowed? I mean, should they be able to vote to limit the freedom of a minority?
So you're saying that hypothetically, if everything was banned, like no drugs or anything.
Right. If hypothetically they've passed a law that says you are not allowed to transition, you are not allowed to get hormones
Well, let's
or
be more
puberty
specific.
blockers. Or okay,
You're not allowed to transition your child.
right.
Right? Because this is different, right? We're talking about someone who is not making this choice for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they're not making the choice for themselves.
Legally speaking, they're actually not capable of doing so, right? They're not able to consent to these procedures, so their parents have to do it for them.
I mean, the
So,
children have a say in what they're doing with their.
To be specific,
Uh-huh.
we're talking about hypothetically. It's not that you're not allowed to transition. It's you're not allowed to transition your child, right?
Right. Right. Okay. The bill, which prohibits transitional hormone treatments and surgeries for transgender people under 18, led to a standoff this month between House leadership Representative Zoe Zephyr and so it is a bill that prohibits transitional hormone treatments and surgeries for transgender people under 18.
I would say that the hormone treatments probably can be or should be allowed to be done, but the surgeries should not.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because you go through puberty and whatnot. Your body has irreversible changes at that point, and the hormone treatments would prevent those.
Prevent that. Right. Which is why which is why they're pushing for it. Which is why they're suggesting that it start earlier than 18. Because by 18, it's much harder to transition for either direction. Should the government be allowed to prohibit that? Even if voted for, I don't think the government should be allowed to prohibit that.
Again, that's a separate question.
That's the question I'm aiming towards, not what's in the bill. That's the direction I'm trying to take this, rather than what's in the bill.
Is would I vote for the bill as it's being described? Probably not. Should the government be able to do that? Yes.
Sell me on that. Why should the government be allowed? I'm saying no. So why should the government be allowed to do that?
Because the government has the authority to do that. That's it. just like the government has the authority to impose penalties on me for having a good credit score.
Not reopening that.
It's what
The government never penalizes you for that. In fact,
it's what the authority of I'm not. You're challenging the authority of the government to do this, whereas what I challenge when I have an issue with a bill is the actual content to the bill or rule, right? I don't challenge the authority of the government to do one of these things unless it's absolutely outside of the Constitution, which I don't think this is.
This seems like a civil rights issue to me. This seems like human freedom and choice that the government is limiting. I recognize that the government can limit your freedom to murder people. I'm okay with that because the outcome of you murdering people is bad. I would really like you not to murder people. So I'm okay with the government limiting your freedom in doing so. I'm okay with the government limiting the speed with which you can drive on a road. Makes sense to me. Some speed kills, right? So if the government puts up a sign that says you can only go 30 miles an hour on this road, I can respect that. There's a reason behind it. They don't want you running into people. They don't want you running over kids. They don't want you hitting people because and having huge accidents because you were going 70. You know, this makes sense. This bill in Montana, which prohibits transitional hormone treatments and surgeries for transgender people under 18, does not make sense. It is the state using the authority that they have to dictate human choices, human lives, and their medical care. Do you not see it as that?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't. Here's what I will say is that these laws are being made to protect people.
Oh, okay.
Overwhelmingly, they are. Yeah. I know you don't see it that way. You see it as a limitation of freedom.
They're being made to harm a minority that the Republicans don't like.
No, I don't think so at all. I don't think that is how Republicans view this issue. Not in the legislation or in general. I'll ask you this: if we give people puberty blockers as children and hormones and whatnot, and this is me playing the advocate for a second for this kind of a bill.
Okay.
If you give them puberty blockers, if you give a male child puberty blockers to transition to being a girl, the dick doesn't get bigger. Okay? Now, if the dick doesn't get bigger, you don't have the required material to perform the surgery when they become adults. Like, that's how it's done, is
okay.
When the dick comes off and they try to create the new...
This sounds like a discussion that person should have with their doctor. Not...
As a child?
Yes. Not Greg Gianfort, the governor of Montana. The governor of Montana should not be at all involved in this situation that you are describing. He has not the medical degree. He has not the specialty. He has not the relationship that a doctor has with their patient. He should not be deciding this. This should be decided with that child and their doctor and their parents.
Well, I'm getting to the
Okay.
point.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. You haven't heard the point yet.
Okay, I apologize.
The point is that when you don't have that material, it has to come from somewhere else. And the most recent iteration of this, of the solution to this, is to take the material from the colon.
Okay.
Now, when that happens, there have been people now that have died from this surgery because colon has bacteria in it, like E. coli, and they have issues where complications from the surgery result in E. coli spreading, deadly forms of it that kill the patient.
Okay.
So, can these choices lead to the death of the patient? And if so, should the state be able to not allow that to be done?
Greg Gianfort does not know any of that. He's not thinking about that. He's not discussed it. He has to put forward a plan based on that. It has nothing to do with the bill that they're putting forward. That is, you described a medical risk. If doctors think that the risk is too high, they won't do it. If the doctor talks to the patient and says, hey, if we do X, it will result in Y, and then we will have to do Z, and then that will, here's your end point. You know, doctors make plans. And if this plan that you just described, where they go into the colon and they steal material, harms them, then the doctors won't do it. Or they will get the consent of that person and their parents to make this a plan. It has nothing to do with the governor of Montana. The governor of Montana should never be making bills based on whether or not there's bacteria in a colon. It's a medical issue. The governor of Montana can create regulations on medical procedures and things like that. If there was lots of evidence of a certain procedure being extra dangerous, then he could create a regulatory body. He could bring them in for testimony and look into finding an expert who will find out why the procedure is extra dangerous and how to prevent it from happening. But saying certain people aren't allowed to make certain decisions isn't the way to go about it.
Okay, so you don't have an issue with the government's authority to do something, to do this, which is one of the first questions you asked me. What you have is an issue with the reason that they're doing it.
Right. The reasons that.
So then why ask me the should question at all?
Should they be allowed?
Exactly. That's two different things.
It's all interconnected. It's not two different things. It's all interconnected.
It is two different things.
How
it's
is it
two different questions? Things? Does the government have the authority to make this rule? And the separate question is,
I mean, they do. I'm not saying that they don't have the authority to make this rule.
And should they be allowed is that's what you're asking when you say should they
Right.
be allowed?
Should the government be allowed to limit people's freedoms on this
Yes.
on this situation? They have the authority. The authority is not the righteousness. There's a difference between authority and righteousness.
Should they have the authority?
Should they have the authority to do this?
Yes.
Sell me on that. I see it as a harm to people's freedom. But you're suggesting that they are protecting people.
We're going in circles here.
Well, because I'm trying to comprehend what you're talking about, and I don't get it. I think we've come down to our bottom level. I suggest that they're taking away freedom, and you're suggesting they're protecting people. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Look at chat. Kyle says people die from lots of shit, like guns. If the government does a thing to protect people from dying from guns, what would we say?
Be a little more specific. Why don't you?
Okay, it is
If a
very
government
vague.
does something to protect people from dying
Okay,
from guns,
we have to be shockingly specific when it comes to the 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 penis material and the colon material. That's specific. Okay, and we have to protect people from penis colon surgery. That is super important, but never, never, never pass anything about gun control.
There it is. See,
Exactly.
people dying from guns. Well, of course we'd want to prevent that.
Of course, we'd want to prevent that.
But you're making a different statement now
Yeah,
about
I've
people being allowed
pivoted.
to purchase them, right?
If you had scientific evidence that proved that fewer people purchasing them led to fewer people dying, would that not fall under the same situation as
That evidence
this?
doesn't exist.
Oh, because we're not allowed to find it, and even if we
Oh,
did,
we've looked for it.
Bullshit.
It doesn't exist.
Bullshit.
Nope.
Bullshit. We've looked for that.
In fact, the
CDC is not allowed to search those things, right?
Oh, they are, and of course we have plenty of statistics. But if you want to do the gun control debate in 2 weeks, I'm down for that.
Okay. Yeah, we are getting off topic. You are right. Why'd you get us off topic, chat? Just kidding. I love you. Okay. So you say that the government is protecting people, and I'd say the government is taking away freedom. And I think that's where we just land on this situation.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on, unless you got something else to say about it.
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. Minnesota Senate passes marijuana legalization bill, bringing it closer to law than ever before.
Nice.
And Minnesota for recreational, not just that medical half-ass crap. Legalizing recreational, not that decriminalized medical halfway that most of these states want to go with. But yeah,
Legalize it. Let's
legalized recreational. I think it's great.
Good for them. Good for
Good for
Minnesota.
them. Good for Minnesota. Good for the country.
I wish they would just do it federally.
So you're in favor of that being done federally. I'm
already told you I'm in
no.
favor of. Well, yeah, I'm in
Your
favor
stance is
of an adult
befuddle
being
me.
allowed to do whatever they want. Really.
Okay, your stances befuddle me. They spin me around in my brain. Because sometimes you're like, yeah, the federal government should do that. And then sometimes you're like, nah, the federal government can't do that and shouldn't do that and leave it all to the states. And then it befuddles
you gotta
me.
select live chat and make it new instead of top.
I did that. It's live chat.
It is on live chat. Damn it, Kyle. Lying to me.
It's been on live chat.
All right, sorry. So my stance is befuddle you.
Yes. Sometimes you're like, hey, I sure do hate that federal government. And then sometimes you're like, hey, the federal government should just legalize all the recreational weed across the country. And it spins me around, and I'm like, wait, I thought you didn't like that whole federal government thing. I thought you liked that whole states' rights thing.
Isn't the federal government restricting the ability to purchase marijuana and smoke it?
Is the federal government preventing that?
The government is,
No,
yes.
they don't enforce it. I mean, it's still federally illegal in the state of Washington, but the federal government has chosen not to enforce that law.
Yeah, so the federal government should legalize it, and then the state governments should also legalize it. And yes, those are two separate things.
Okay.
But why do you think this is contradictory?
Because a lot of times you really dislike the federal government doing things.
Well, the banning of a particular drug is a doing of a thing.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
It's legalizing it is not doing a thing. This is a thing that I don't think should be uh, or banning marijuana use, I think, is something that the federal government should not be doing.
The federal government shouldn't be banning things.
No, not drugs. If you're an adult, just just do them.
And
It's just
and
which is
okay,
actually
okay, okay,
it's
okay.
like
All
that's
right.
exactly what my stance is on the trans thing too, right? Once you're an adult at 18, I don't care
Okay.
what surgeries you
Okay.
elect to have done on you, and I don't care what hormones you choose to put in your body.
Okay.
And I think that all of those hormones should be freely available to anybody who wants them. So if I want gender affirming care as myself as a man, I should be able to get some extra testosterone if I
Okay.
want to, right?
And you're okay
Same
with okay.
the same position is, hey, if you want to smoke some weed, go for it.
And the federal government should not ban those things.
Nah,
Okay. Can the state ban those things?
they can.
They can.
I don't think they should. I would disagree with the bill, but yes, they can. Just like the
And
federal government can ban ban whatever they like, the marijuana and whatnot. They can do that. I just disagree with them doing that.
doing that. Okay.
I disagree
Okay.
with the ban itself. I don't disagree with their authority to do the ban.
Okay. So hypothetically, the federal government, I would say, is not enforcing that ban right now. It's still on the books. They're just choosing not to enforce it. I mean, the DEA does enforce it whenever the fuck they want to. It's very selective, and I'm very unhappy with that. I suspect you would be as well.
Yes.
Okay, because you push for consistency a lot of times.
Amazing that I like consistency.
I
You
know.
know?
Um, and I'm not arguing against consistency, but I think it is wrong. I think it is a bad way to operate that the federal
I
government
think
has a
that if we're
law that they
not going to
choose
enforce
not
a
to
law,
enforce it. Yeah, we should get rid of
yeah, I think if we're not going to enforce a law, then we should not have the law at all.
it. Okay, but that would
So
take fucking. I would have to go through the legislature, the Senate, and the House, and they hate doing things. Uh, so they're not going to do that because they hate doing things. They'd rather just ignore the problem than pass a law to get rid of it. Because passing a law to get rid of that federal ban of marijuana would affect their poll numbers. So they're not going to do that. Hypothetically, they did that. Federally, it's legal. You're okay with the state of Texas passing a law that says it's completely illegal.
you're using your words ineffectively again.
How do you figure?
I'm okay with the state of Texas passing a law that is illegal. That it's completely illegal.
Or if you're
Um,
not okay with that, then that's fine. You're not okay with it. If you think that's a dumb idea,
I
or you
recognize their authority to do it.
okay,
So yes, they can and should be able to do that.
okay,
I also have I also can disagree with the contents of the bill.
okay.
Right. So
It de-
the way I think of it is
okay.
if I was in the legislature, would I vote for or against this bill? Right.
Mm-hmm.
That is separate from can or should
Okay.
the government be able to pass this bill in the first place. Is this making a little more sense now?
Well, maybe, maybe. Uh, on this issue, I might surprise you by saying it would probably be. I would probably also be okay with the state of Texas saying, yes, it's federally allowed, but in this state we don't allow it,
Uh-huh.
because it's not really about human rights.
That is, I mean, it's a question of state rights, right? I mean, if yes, it's federally allowed, and in fact, lots and lots of things should be federally allowed that states could choose
Choose then to opt in and
not to
opt out
allow.
of. If that thing is human rights, I don't think the state should be allowed to opt out of it.
I think that you are turning this into a different discussion. That
Well,
where
I'm
you're
turning it
kind of
into a
going
states'
back
rights
towards.
discussion.
It is a states' rights discussion,
hmm
but you're turning this into a trans discussion again,
Oh,
and
I could turn it into a gay marriage discussion if you like, or I could turn it into a marijuana discussion. I'm okay.
it's already been a marijuana
I know,
discussion. This is what I'm talking about.
I know, and we're slightly transitioning to states' rights. I think that the state has more of a right to ban marijuana than they would gay marriage. Does that make sense?
More
Because
right to ban marijuana than they would ban gay marriage.
And the reason I've gotten to that sentence is because gay marriage is a human right, and smoking weed is a choice that you can make, but it's not really a human right.
That's weird. Marriage itself is not a human right,
I would suggest that it
but
is part of
I,
human rights.
well, no.
It's not quite as solid human right as uh, murdering minorities. You know, hey, the state
What the
voted
fuck?
for murdering minorities. I'd be really against it. That's a very huge human right issue,
Well, that'd be a
right?
violation of the
Lots of things.
right to
Right.
life, wouldn't it?
Okay, great. It would be a violation of lots of things. Okay, but now we're saying these minorities can't get married. You're still
You have
violating the rights a little bit.
a
And
really weird conception of human rights, I think.
I do? Do I?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and marriage is not a human right. So
I think it
I'm
is.
questioning your choice of words.
I
Is
do have a
really
slippery
where
loop.
I'm at.
Are you
It's
suggesting I have a slippery understanding of the English language? Because that's probably true.
well, it's just it's exactly like how I'm very careful when you say words like should this be a thing or
hmm
should the government be able to do this, right?
hmm
And it's like they have the authority to do it. I do not have to agree with the bill to say that they have the authority to do this, right?
I
Um,
can
so
comprehend parsing
that's
those out. Sure.
right. So I'm parsing things out here,
hmm
and
We're just parsing them
I
in different
do
places.
I do the same thing when you say or when you list things like marriage in the same category as human rights. They're not the same thing. The marriage and human rights are two different things. Human rights are things that are exactly like you're highlighting here are
hmm
inherent. Um, all human beings, right? So we have the right to life. We have the right to our liberty. We have the right to, at least according to Thomas Paine, it's not enshrined in our Constitution. We have the right to property,
hmm
but it was changed to the pursuit of happiness, right?
Okay.
Um, no, marriage is not a human right. It's a marriage is actually fundamentally it's a religious institution that we have
Horseshit.
encoded into law.
It's not a religious organization. It's not a religious.
It is a religious
No,
institution.
it's not. Can you get married without a church?
You can now, but
Can you get married
that's
without the state?
also yes.
No, you cannot.
Uh-huh.
You can't get married without the
But
state.
because the fact that we politicized marriage and made it so that you have to get this document that says that you're married to somebody,
You have to get a
and
license from the state.
uh-huh. I'm telling you, marriage is foundationally a religious institution, even if we have taken the religion out of it and made it a state issue. It is fundamentally religious. It's not, but that's a different argument from is marriage a human right? And the answer is no.
If a man and a woman are allowed to get married, but a man and a man aren't, you have discriminated against them, which I would suggest is against their human rights. You have changed the rules and the laws based on their gender.
Well, I'll tell you this: I don't think that marriage should be a political institution; it's a religious one. So,
Okay, well then we're gonna go on to a
I don't
completely
think-
different tangent with that situation, and I will stop bringing it up.
I don't think that. I'll just put this out there. I don't think that marriage itself should be something that you should be going to the state for to get a certificate and having different taxes and different rules and whatnot surrounding you. Marriage is a religious institution, and the fact that it is political, I think, is wrong.
Well, that's what we're talking about 2 weeks from now, because I am on completely the opposite side. I'd say it's only a state institution, and it only should be a state institution. And historically, it's always been a state institution. Even
Put on Willis.
1,000 years ago.
I would actually rather talk about gun control in 2 weeks.
Okay, rather talk about gun control in 2 weeks. Okay, I'm putting it on the list, but below gun control. Okay. That's fine. I think even 1,000 years ago, it was still a state issue.
Nope, not 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, it was. You had to pay a dowry, and it was invented to determine whose children were whose, so that we can pass things down to them and know who owns the next bunch of things. That's all state stuff. There's nothing religious about your oldest son getting all the cows that you owned when you died.
I think that stuff was obvious to them back then, and the only
Not
reason
if you're nailing 9 different people.
Only thing, well, you didn't do that back then either, did you?
They
Because
did in the tribal societies did.
These were people of God, you know. They didn't go around with. They didn't have Tinder. They didn't go fuck 20 different girls every week, you know.
Of course they did. They just lied about it. Of course they did. They cheated on each other all the time in the biblical era, and the one that he was married to, even though he did 9 other girls on the side, the one he's married to and has a child with that one, that's the one that gets his property when he dies. Marriage has always been a state institution.
I would bet you that wasn't actually regulated. And there was no tax when the son took that over, which the tax is the entire purpose of having this whole or of politicizing it in the first place. I mean, yeah, we have to say you got this because your dad died, and we're gonna tax you on it. We have inheritance tax, right? If we didn't have inheritance tax, then it wouldn't matter who gets what.
Of course it would.
To the state, at least. It would matter to the people, of course.
And it matters to the people. Okay, great. Okay, the people would fight over it. And so we would have, if the people are fighting, we have to come up with a rule. Or a ruling. And that is rules and rulings belongs to the state. Regardless, I'm sorry I dragged us off topic. Is smoking marijuana a human right, do you think?
No.
Okay, I agree with you. I don't think it is. Is transitioning to another gender a human right?
No.
Okay. I'm a little bit I think it's a little bit closer to being a human right than smoking marijuana.
I think that this is a all or nothing question.
What? You can't be close to human rights?
Is something a human right? Answer is yes or no.
Man. No, that there are 1,000 shades of gray.
Not when it comes to something with a very specific definition.
Maybe
human rights include
maybe
the right
that's
to life and liberty, freedom from slavery and torture, freedom of opinion and expression, the right to work and I don't agree with that last little bit. And
Okay,
then
so that's what I'm saying. There's a million billion shades of gray, and that's the reason we can't just come down to yes or no answers.
it is a yes or no answer, though, isn't it?
Only a
Is
Sith deals in
something a
absolutes,
human
man.
right? Yes, no. Well,
There's a million shades of gray.
it's treason then.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like, expression, they call it gender expression. I mean, do they have the right to a gender expression?
Yes. Well,
Okay, great.
yes.
So it's a kind of a human right. If so, and it's I'm not saying it's hard and fast. I'm saying it's tangential, and similar. If I have the freedom to wear a dress and express myself as a woman,
You do.
and I think that hormone replacement would increase that expression and give me more freedom in that area, then stopping me from doing it would be against my human rights.
I've already told you that I
Okay.
don't I don't support the banning of any hormones for anybody.
Okay.
Well, for any adult.
Okay. So it is.
So I don't know what you're arguing with me about.
It is tangential to human rights. I asked you if transitioning was a human right, and you said, "Is
No.
transitioning a human right?" It's not, but we just discussed how it's close, and you said there's no such thing as close.
I can be in favor of anyone getting whatever hormones they want
Mm-hmm.
as an adult, while still not recognizing the receiving of those hormones or the use of them as a human right.
Okay. Is it tangential
again,
to
two
human
different
rights?
things.
Is it right next to human rights? Is it bordering human rights?
No.
No. Okay. I think it's very close to human rights. It might not be specifically 100% a human right, but it's right next to it. Right next to it. Very close by.
I guess I'll ask you this:
Mhm.
do you think that using those hormones is a human right?
Using them?
You asked me the question, so I'm asking you: do you think that getting and receiving hormones, or receiving and using hormones, is a human right?
Mostly. Again, shades of gray. I deal in shades of gray. That's why I say should and could and would, and it's bordering on a human right. Yes. It's closer.
So-
It's closer to a human right than smoking marijuana. So it's somewhat close to human rights. I think if someone says I would like to do this and you stop them by law, you are in fact hampering their freedom of expression with discrimination. You are discriminating against their expression of their freedom. So it is a violation. It's a small violation of their human rights. There are degrees of violations of human rights, and I would say that the law preventing, to answer your question, sorry, I went a really long way to get there. Creating a law that prevents people from taking those hormones is a violation of their human rights. Yes.
I think we fundamentally disagree there.
Right. And I'm going to suggest it's because you're more black and white. Yes and no.
I mean, that is the nature of the world. Unfortunately.
What? No. The world is painted in gray paint, my friend. Gray, shades of gray from top to bottom, baby.
That's the mush of the liberal values that you're that you're hooked on there.
Absolutely not. That is what I see when I look around. Shades of gray everywhere. I didn't make it that way. I didn't.
I wonder, do you
push
think that,
for such a
that
thing?
maybe that's the difference between the left and the right?
I'm starting. Over the past 10 minutes, I've been starting to think so.
Possibly. Is
I didn't expect you to say yes or no on human rights. I thought you were going to have all kinds of wiggle room.
Nope.
Um,
No, because human rights have a very specific definition. It's life, liberty, property. And you don't agree with that, do you?
I think that's entirely limiting.
Those are the natural rights though. Human rights, natural rights, same thing. Life, liberty, property are the rights that we have afforded to us.
But you don't. I mean, the freedom of speech. Where does it fit under those three words?
Liberty.
Under life and liberty. Okay. Can you suggested that I was vague several times last week? Can I suggest that that is a vague sentence? Life, liberty, property.
They are. It's not vague at all, but they are very
You know how many
expansive in their
expansive. You know how many things I could fit under
in
the
their
word
meanings.
liberty? Great. So if you've taken away a trans person's liberty to take hormones, are you not impugning their human rights?
I already told you that I don't support banning hormones.
So is transition a human right? You said no. It's not a human right. But I can fit it under that liberty, life, liberty specifically. Real easy.
So no, again, transition is not a human right. Liberty is. So,
Liberty is a human right.
yes.
And if you take that liberty to transition away from them, you have taken away their human right.
I already told you though. I don't.
You're being inconsistent here.
I'm being totally consistent.
Liberty. Okay, I'm going to walk you through it. All right. Liberty is a human right. Right? You're on board with this? Liberty is a
Yes.
human right. Okay. Transition to another gender is not a human right.
Liberty is a human right.
Uh-huh. And you're saying yes to that, but when I ask you, is transitioning to another gender a human right, you said no. Now,
It's not.
okay, if the state prevents you from transitioning, they are preventing your liberty to do so. They are taking away your freedom to transition. The state has made a law that says you cannot do this thing that you were free to do and you feel is your liberty. So transition is liberty. And preventing that transition is taking away their human rights. Or are you going to
No.
suggest that I'm twisting the definitions here?
You are missing at least a few things here.
Okay.
So you have the liberty to transition. And if we restrict that liberty, then we are violating a human right.
Right. That's
We're not violating transition. We're violating the right to liberty.
Right.
And again, I'm fine with people taking whatever hormones that they want once they're adults capable of making that choice.
Okay.
And taking whatever surgeries they want.
Okay.
So I don't really understand what it is that you're getting at. Then I've already told you I don't support bills that restrict these freedoms for adults.
Because you keep saying that transition is not human right.
It's not liberty.
But I'm telling you it fits directly underneath that liberty definition. Are the things under the liberty definition human rights?
No.
No. Okay. All right. That's what this is a distinction that I'm not comprehending that you're making. Liberty is a human right, but the things that can be described as liberty aren't human rights. Are they adjacent?
Liberty itself is the human right.
Okay. Are the things under the word that fall under the word liberty adjacent to human rights?
Adjacent to human rights. I don't think it's meaningful to be human rights adjacent. I think it's
It has no
meaningful.
value. It has no meaning. All right. Maybe I should make a draw thread. I don't know.
I don't think that's a meaningful question. I mean, adjacent to human rights.
Adjacent might be the wrong word. Underneath the liberty umbrella. Imagine, okay, you're on board. Liberty is a human right.
Uh-huh.
That is a vague word.
It's been that way since
I
1776.
know, great. That is
actually since way before that. But
okay.
Go ahead.
The things that you have the liberty to do aren't human rights, according to your definition.
No, they're not.
Okay. Then the word liberty has no fucking meaning.
Yes, it does.
I can't imagine how it does if the things that I use liberty to describe aren't going to be considered human rights.
Well, I'll ask you this.
Is liberty a large umbrella that encompasses, or a Venn diagram or a sphere that encompasses a lot of things? Liberty? It encompasses actions that you can take, yes?
No, liberty has a very specific meaning.
Okay.
And it does not encompass other things. It's totally different. Yes, you should be able to do what it is that you want, but having all of these other things, yeah. So the state of being free from society, from oppression, restrictions, etc. Yeah, you have the right to liberty.
Okay. Follow me here. My way of life.
You're going to lead me down the dark path.
Right. My way of life is to transition to the other gender. And the authority of the state is oppressing me. So the state is taking away liberty. The state of Montana is taking away liberty.
Hold on a second. I've continued to make the distinction. I support your ability to do whatever you want when you're an adult, right?
Okay. Yes. And if the state took that away, let's imagine you
That's
accept
not what
that.
this is, though, is it? This
If
is for
the
people who are not adults.
Hypothetically, if the state took that away, would they be impugning your liberty? Because they're impugning liberty. They're impugning your human right.
Okay, so what?
Transitioning is a human right. That's what I'm saying.
No,
oh my God! You just agreed with all the steps,
here's the thing. No. So
I've taken psychic
you're missing
damage.
the last human right. The last human right is property, right?
The last human right is property. Okay.
Now that doesn't mean that we have to give you property. It means that once you have property that you've worked for and you've gotten, that belongs to you, that we don't take it away, right, unduly. Which, by the way, would be exactly part of why I was so upset last week.
Okay.
But the last one would be property. Now, the surgery, the hormone treatments and whatnot, those are things that somebody had to produce, right? And they cost money.
Okay.
Right? That money is a representation of the value that we've put forth into the world, and we were compensated in the form of money.
Okay.
The bartering system. But it's not a human right, because when something is going to, or because to say that it is a human right would entitle you, therefore, to the those procedures and that those hormones and whatnot. I don't believe that you're entitled to them. You are entitled to your liberty. If you can get them, do it. But I don't think that you are entitled to it in the same way you're entitled to liberty, because that is somebody else's property. That's why it's not a human right.
You took 7 steps away from the actual discussion.
I'm telling you why I distinguish between liberty and transitioning as a human right.
Because somebody had to make the hormone.
Because the things that you need in order to transition
You're
are
adding.
somebody else's property that you are not entitled to.
Nobody said we were going to give it to them for free. Nobody
Well-
said that they weren't going to pay for the transition. Nobody said that it had to be funded by other taxpayers. We're not even discussing that.
I understand that, but you asked me why I distinguish between the human right of liberty and transitioning as a human right.
Uh-huh.
That is why I distinguish between it.
Because somebody had to make the hormones. Somebody had to cook
Because
them in a lab.
the process of the transition requires that you have access to property.
And you
right?
paid for that property.
Having liberty itself is not the same thing as going and taking and using property and transitioning.
If
It's
if the state stopped you from buying something with the money you have, they said, no, you are not allowed to buy that. Are they impugning your liberty?
Yes.
Okay, great. So you're all over the road.
I'm not all over the road at all.
I think
very
you're
consistent here.
No, not in any way, shape, or form. I have the money and I have the money to transition, and the government has stopped me from doing so. Are they harming my liberty?
Yes.
Okay, great. So they're harming my human rights.
You know why these answers come so fast is because of the consistency that I have.
Because
I
it's
know
my
exactly
human
the
right.
answer to your question.
It's my human right to buy that estrogen and transition.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. See, that's the thing that keeps bugging me. I'm describing to you all these human rights and stuff like that, and you're like, no. We get to that one last step, and you keep saying no, and I can't comprehend it.
No,
I don't
it's
know
it's
how
not
you
your
get to
human
the
right
no.
to. It's not your human right to buy that estrogen because it also is within the liberty of the seller, the person you buy it from, to refuse to sell it to you.
Then they're oppressing your human rights.
No, they're not.
Somewhat. Okay.
That's their property.
The state of Montana is oppressing and restricting
No,
by
they're not.
their authority the way of life, the behavior, and the political views of its trans citizens. The state of
No, it's not.
Montana is absolutely taking liberty from a minority. And nothing you've said has swayed me on that.
That's fine, but the state of Montana is making it. The law in Montana is specifically for minors, right?
Yes. They also have liberty. They also have
They do, but
rights.
we understand.
They also have human
we do
rights.
recognize, by nature of the fact that we have a term for it, minors, and we have an age for it, under 18,
Uh-huh.
is that they're actually not really capable of making certain decisions.
Right, which means they need guidance and help, which they get from their parents, their guardians, and their doctors.
This is an entirely different discussion from the question of what is a human right.
No, it's not.
It is.
The state of Montana is being oppressively restrictive toward that minor's way of life, behavior, and political views. They are taking the liberty from these minors. The state is taking liberty, definitionally, I'd say. I mean, I talk a lot of shoulds and talk a lot of shit about what may or may not be and this might be adjacent to fascism. The state of Montana is literally, definitionally taking the liberty away from its minors' of a minority. Minority minors. They're double minors.
I
And-
don't think that these are, or rather, I do think that the state restricts liberties
Mm-hmm.
in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't disagree with the state's authority to do that.
Okay.
In fact, I think that, I guess we'll put this another way, you support gun control. So
Certain
you are
types of it, sure.
advocating, so you advocate for the restriction of the liberty to purchase certain firearms,
Yes.
or to purchase, or for certain people to purchase firearms.
Yes.
So I guess the question is, are we both inconsistent?
No.
Well
Both.
then,
I'm not being consistent, suggesting that guns kill people. It's literally their purpose. It's what they do.
So the restriction of liberty
Mm-hmm.
is a power that the state has.
Yes, I would agree to that. Yes, it is. Now, what are they restricting? Are they restricting things that are human rights? Are they restricting things that are harmful? Are they restricting things that will hurt others? Then I would usually on board for their restrictions.
Okay. And transition practices and transition research is relatively recent. We don't have a lot of long-term data on people that are transitioning and whatnot.
Because it gets destroyed by fascists. I'm not suggesting that's what you are doing or who you are. I'm saying for a fact that the Nazis burned down, the actual Nazis under Hitler burned transgender studies. They burned down a whole hospital based on trying to comprehend and understand transgender people.
Okay. Go back.
Sorry.
I don't care about
Okay.
the Nazi book burning thing.
Okay, great. Well, it wouldn't be new. We would have more knowledge on the subject had the bad people not destroyed that knowledge.
If in 20 years,
Mhm.
research shows that a huge number of people that transition now regret it, and they have had life-altering changes to their bodies as a result of hormone therapies and whatnot, would you then support banning transition care?
If the science said that this is severely harmful, yes.
Okay.
If the science
I'll say
says
that I don't think that we have enough data to know yet.
Okay.
In 20 years we will.
Well, no, you'll
But,
say that in 20 years. We don't have enough data in 20 years. But there are
But
people
you
who
said
are
that the state. What I'm getting at is you said that the state should have the right to restrict things that hurt people, right?
Yes.
And I suggested at the very beginning of all this
Mhm.
that Republicans are not doing this maliciously. They're doing it because they view transitioning as harm.
Mm-hmm. They are being disingenuous when they tell you that. Suicide risk reduces 73% in transgender non-binary youth when gender-affirming care is applied. This reduces their suicide by 73%. That's science saying that it isn't actually more harmful to transition. And the Montana governor will ignore that data. He will
Going to find out.
disregard that data. Doesn't matter how nice the data is. He is being, I think, disingenuous when he says this is to protect people.
I don't think it is. I don't think this is malicious. I think it is intended to protect people, even if you think that that's a misguided intention.
Okay, that is a discussion that we could have, and we can look at the stats and numbers and percentages.
Set it for the stream that we have in 20
Sure.
years.
That's fine. That's fine. 20 years from now, we will do that stream.
As I recall, actually, there was a bill we talked about a few weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago now, that we were very upset with because it included a provision that if somebody gets transitioning surgery as a minor and then regrets their transition, they can sue the doctor up to 20 years later.
Yeah, that's a shit way to handle it. Yes.
Well, if it's all just if it's all just helping, then why would they sue? Or why would anybody regret it?
Because that doctor has now taken on a gigantic risk that is far
Well,
outside the regular risk. You're not allowed to sue
what's
20
the risk,
years.
Though? What's the risk though? If it's all helpful, then what is the risk the doctor's taking? I mean, they're going to sue because they're happy?
They're going to sue because they're poor or they're desperate. They're going to sue because they regret a thing 20 years after they've done it. You can't sue a doctor for shit that happened 20 years ago. That's insane. You signed a waiver, said do this thing, and the doctor said, hey, I think we do this thing. Then you do the thing, and then 20 years later you sue the doctor? It's insane. That will cause doctors to hesitate. And in that hesitation,
well, you were
fewer people will... Right. And in that hesitation, you will start the puberty that you didn't want. In that hesitation, you will have to go through more hoops. In that hesitation, you will have to cross more hurdles to find a doctor who's willing to help you. It is a hurdle. It's not a that thing that we talked about last time. That 20-year you can sue the doctor 20 years after they transitioned you is a small hurdle. And if you put enough hurdles in between the child and the transition, maybe they won't make it. Maybe they'll stumble. Maybe they won't get there. And there will be fewer trans people, which is the Republican plan. Fewer trans people. If there's 2 hurdles between a cis person and a trans person, there will be more trans people, right? If there's 300 hurdles, there will be fewer of them.
I think that for minors, there need to be a certain number of hurdles to be cleared. Yes,
I'm okay with having some hurdles. Yes.
For adults, I think that less hurdles is usually ideal. So
okay,
for adults, go ahead. For minors, these are people who are not capable of making choices yet, and we do have to have a certain number of hurdles in order to make sure that we're not causing them harm.
I can agree to that. There should be hurdles. Those hurdles should be between the doctor and the patient, not the governor of Montana. The person who's putting the hurdles in place ought to be parents, doctors, experts, psychologists, maybe nurses can put some hurdles. I don't care. All the people that have to deal with that person, somebody who has a stake in that person, should be putting those hurdles there, not the governor.
The governor and the government is making rules for those hurdles, aren't they? I mean, that is what the government does, is it puts those rules in place.
Yeah, that's what they do. They put rules in place.
Okay. You're saying that the government shouldn't be the one to
No, I'm saying
make
that
rules.
the government is putting rules in place that stomp on the liberty of these people.
You've already agreed that they have the authority to do that, and they should when they
Yes,
can,
they
in certain
should when they
instances.
can and when they think it's harmful on certain instances. This ain't one of them.
Oh, this is.
Absolutely not. Yes, the government can stomp on your liberty, and they can prevent you from doing certain things, and they should prevent harmful things from being done. But I think they are going to ignore any help that transition provides and only point out harms because they are bigoted towards it. They don't like it.
We fundamentally disagree on the motivations, I think,
I know.
of these people. But and I don't think that we're ever going to come to an agreement on that. You think that
Okay.
they're malicious. I think that they are seeking to protect people.
Okay. Okay.
And I think that's pretty
And
much
that's
it.
the end point that we keep coming to is
Yeah.
you and I'll leave off with your definition. You think that they are trying to protect people.
Yep.
Okay. I think that's it for today. Unless you wanted to go round and round on states' rights some more.
Oh God. Well, so we don't have a stream next week.
Yeah.
Um, I have a prior engagement,
Mhm.
and so do you. It sounds like.
Yeah, I've got a thing to do. And it would be
So
easier if I weren't streaming for 2 or 3 hours on Saturday.
so 2 weeks from now will be our next stream,
Mhm.
and let me see. People who are not what for protection? I don't understand the.
He accidentally a whole word there. So yeah, next week we're out. 2 weeks from now, for not seeking protection.
Are they seeking to protect people who are not seeking protection? They don't have to be seeking protection to need it.
Yeah, I think that the government creating protections, uh, you don't have to do it for people who are seeking it.
Or for people who aren't. I mean,
Right. Yeah. Speed limits protect you whether you fucking seek it out or not.
right, exactly.
Um, so
So 2 weeks from now, let's do it. Let's do gun control.
you want
in
to do
2
gun
weeks.
control? Okay.
Yep.
All right. I will give you a couple of. I'll find some links, and
I will too. We should send those relatively early so the other has time to study them,
How
so we don't just
dare
ambush
you?
each other.
I'm gonna ambush you Saturday morning, 9 a.m.
God
I'm
damn it!
gonna
I
send
knew
it to
you
you.
would.
Yeah, I might. I just might. No, I'm not going to do that. I will find some literature, something to read, something to look at, and then we can discuss it. And I might compare it again to human rights
Okay.
because I mean it's a fundamental right, right?
Human rights are human rights. Yeah.
Okay,
They're
great. Okay.
They're natural. We also call them natural rights. So yeah.
I have a feeling that is a loaded term, but I don't know that it's a loaded term. I could be wrong. It might not be a loaded term, but I'm going to look into it as well.
All right.
All right. Everybody have a good time. Have a good week, and we'll talk to you again in a couple of weeks.